because I'm not planning anything. I clearly haven't planned.
I think we're live now.
I think everybody who's done, and we're live now, possibly, maybe, I don't know. Hello, everyone who's not watching this. Mostly it's us talking amongst ourselves. Thank you for joining and for joining me on my publication day, my step into the self-published world. And here it is, the beginning of the adventures. I had some physical copies with me on Sunday at an event in Shrewsbury 2 days early, and some people bought copies and they got signed, personalized copies in their hand, first in the world. So
yeah, they were lucky.
That was it. They were very, very lucky.
I knew I should have stayed in the UK. I never should have
an extra
back.
3 weeks and you would have been fine. You could have got yourself a copy. Like, extend your holiday just 3 more weeks. What does it matter? You know?
Yeah, opportunity.
It's all for this. I mean,
it's more like 6 weeks.
Oh well, has it been that long?
I think it has.
God,
time isn't real. We all know this.
Yeah, it's true. Especially when you're running up to a launch.
Yeah. This has been a lot of work.
You've had 2 since World Cup. Like, did the book 2 for the Blood?
Yeah, Blood and Tide.
Yeah,
no, that was July.
That launch.
I was gonna say. Yeah. I feel like we just had a book launch live.
Yeah. So that was July, and then I had the hardback come out.
Oh
late.
yes,
that came out.
They shipped recently.
September. Yeah.
Yes. So okay, that's why I was thinking it was launched.
Oh, and for anybody who's actually watching, this week there will be an announcement for book 3, the cover and the title.
Ooh,
so just saying for those who Adrian is going to join us, for those who are wondering where he is. Look, there he is. Adrian's joined us.
You have power again.
You have power again.
Yeah.
If you disappear, we're not going to say it's because you don't like us. It's actually your scheduled power outages.
Or that's just his excuse.
That's the lie
really
that's the line he's using.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just like fed the news feeds with all of this
just fake news.
You know.
Fake droughts, fake power outages.
We're on to you, Adrian. We're on to you.
Whatever, MJ.
Shenanigans.
Yeah.
You're like you've been warped by my bullshit for like 2 years as my co-host.
Right? He doesn't even live in Ecuador, you guys. It's all a lie.
He's in Canada somewhere.
This is just a mobile studio.
Yeah, this is it. I've been learning about the surprising things of day one of being an indie author now, and how the fact that not getting annoyed at people saying they promised to buy the paperback. Turns out they have, but they weren't lying to me. It's just it hasn't shipped yet.
It takes a while to ship and to
doesn't tell me that anywhere. I've read all information. I've studied it, and so I'll be there going, "Oh, I just bought it today. Oh, thank you." And I'm looking like, "No, you haven't."
Yeah, correction. The ebooks, those appear as sales.
Yes, those are working. But
the
great.
paperback, sometimes it takes like between 12 to 48 hours for it to appear on your.
All right, so I'm watching you out there. Whoever said they bought the paperback
within the next 3 days, Steven's
right? You're like, it's by Thursday.
I'm going to screen cap and go back and be like, "You said." Look, it's been like 4 days.
And then you have to filter by country and like figure out where everybody is and figure out which country.
If you have a friend that's in like a specific country where you don't know anyone else from there, you could really call him out.
Yeah.
Watching
Adrian.
Adrian.
Accidental. That would be didn't
They're
go
from
to
Ecuador.
I'm just gonna fuck with Steven. I'm gonna buy his book in like every country around the world. Just to
that would be very nice.
What a trick that'll be. The joke will be on me, obviously. Please do.
I'm sorry.
Are you gonna do that for everybody on this live stream, Adrian? We really appreciate it. Thanks, bud.
No, your book's too heavy. Yours is too heavy, Krystle. Sorry. Steven wrote a novella. I can give him that.
A lot of people have been reading it in one. They've been like, they start reading it and they go, "Oh, I'll just carry on and finish it," and then they're done in one. I'm like, yeah, that's good.
That's
very
that's it. Now you have to wait.
But then, like, when's the next one? I'm like, what? Give me a second.
It took me 1 day to read. It took me a lot longer than that to write. Okay.
Yeah. They're like, so when's the second one? I'm like, oh, fuck, come on.
I'm like still kind of annoyed by that. Like 6 months out from Mushroom Blues.
Yeah.
People are like, when's the next one? I'm like, be patient for fuck's
like,
sake.
I know it's indie, but like,
recovering.
Just don't give me like 5 seconds to be like, so when's the next one now? Come on, what's going on? So yeah, I'm starting book 2 in January. I will start writing book 2 in January. So there you go. Second novella. Yeah,
No,
my plan is to do.
You already have plans for multiple, at least.
Yeah, I'm going to do 3.
Yeah, it's going to be a
then
series.
I'm going to do a collection of the 3 together, and then afterwards I might do like more and then do another collection. I don't know, and we'll see.
As the spirit moves you, if you feel like revisiting.
Yeah, spirit moves you.
There's 3 stories I've had in my head for a while, and I've done the first one, so now I'm going to do the other 2, and then around other projects whilst I'm lots of
having little novellas to work on around other projects is actually like a super smart business.
How I squeezed it in whilst on contract for other things. I just had like a break and I needed a palate cleanser and I needed a refresher. And so that's how I got it done. But doing a full novel in between other novels. Especially if I'm going even bigger on some novels, like some people here.
Sorry, Krystle, we're giving you so much
I got a master. Well, but I've been feeling it like so bad lately where it's like, man, it's been a hot minute since I finished anything. And, book 3 isn't going to get smaller. So it's going to continue to be a hot minute. So it's like, man, I gotta master the art of the novella just so I can have something done. So
that's literally why I wrote a bunch of short stories last year. I literally was just like, okay, I don't even know if I'm going to end up trying to publish these anywhere. I don't even know, whatever. I just need to finish something for the love of God.
That's where I am. That's where I am right now. I need like the brain chemical hit of having accomplished something for the first time.
It reminds you why the fuck we do this, right?
Mine was like, I've never done a novella before. And I'm like, neither did I before this. I just got like, I needed something short and I'm doing it. I'm like, oh, this feels so good.
But also, Stephen, for you, is like a big departure from the stuff that you've written too.
Yeah.
For genre, it's different.
Cross genre, first person. Like I've been
fantasy.
thinking about first person a long time, and I've done the closest I've done to something like this already was Blood Mage, which was, but it's multi POV. It is about crime families and a guy who is a cop rather than a PI, but it's all within the fantasy world. But doing this a lot closer to ours in a way, that was very different.
And yet also very off into its own thing. Like that was the thing that was the most fun about it for me was like there's a lot of genre shorthand in it because it's like New York crime, etc. But the way you executed it was just so unique. Like even in being in New York, it was still a fantasy setting and there was some world building there. And yet because it was the structure of it, like the foundation of it was so familiar, I think it let you get through that story a lot faster because you could rely on some of that shorthand.
Let people know.
This is it. I suppose we should talk about the story a bit.
I really liked it.
We're only 8 minutes in. We got to it pretty early.
Krystle? Is that your blurb? I really liked it.
I wrote like a
great review.
A whole review, and it's gonna post on Grimdark Magazine.
See, there you go.
Nice.
I had to add words because there was a minimum. There was a minimum word count.
Add more
swearing.
Swearing up.
The one time Krystle has written something short.
I know.
Reviews are hard, man. Especially with a really short novel, because it's like if you mention anything about the plot, it's almost like immediately a spoiler because the plot happens so fast.
Yes, well, that's like even I feel like
review.
Getting the world description in.
MJ was helping me. I kept looking at MJ going, should I write it? Should I call it a fantasy this? And we were like,
I know. I was like, ooh, but no. I know. I remember we were going back and forth about like, what is an alternate? Do we say fantasy? Should you do this? And then like, I read the actual thing and I was like, I see your struggle here.
No, but I went through the exact same thing with Mountain Blues, man. I was like, how
you're like
hell
noir, crimey,
so I was just like, fuck it, fungal punk, like I'll make up my own thing.
Like, you should have said alternate crimey thing, Stephen.
Alternate crimey,
alternate crimey, grimy noir.
New York sorta.
New York
light.
New York light.
Yeah.
It's like an American beer.
Molson and Coors and New York Light.
There you go.
Molson is Canadian, buddy. Come on.
I know, bud. I know. I drank plenty of Molson. Molson Gold.
Why? Why would
Molson Gold? Because you're a fancy boy?
Because it was the 90s. That's why.
Okay,
that's why I was drinking it. I was in Canada in the 90s, age 19, drinking.
Okay, that's a good reason. I was going to say, don't you have good beer where you are? But if you were here...
I was working in Vermont for the summer, and we took some day trips up to Canada, and we went to
it was a lower
Montreal. Correct, and I was 19.
You could have gone to Quebec where it's 18.
Area. Basically,
I bet it's a rite of passage.
Was 19 because everyone. I mean, I never did because I'm a annoyingly good little child, but like pretty much everyone I knew was like 19. Let's go to Windsor. You know.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I have band practice. Sorry, guys.
Literally.
Yeah. So yes, that's where I was drinking Molson. But anyway.
Okay. Yeah. Molson Gold.
That makes sense.
Steve's okay.
My
well, New York Minute, New York Light.
Yeah.
New York Light. Yeah. But I wanted to do something different. I wanted to combine lots of different things, but I was careful not to say at any time when we were doing the description with MJ to say, don't call it a fantasy, because people are like, where's the magic? Where's the dragons? Where's the... It's like, there isn't any.
Because I mean, this is the thing, like urban fantasy, I feel is like the gray area in all of this.
Yeah.
Because I would classify your book as urban fantasy, you know?
Yeah, because
like even with Mushroom Blues, I was like, technically it is kind of urban fantasy, even though in my heart of hearts I was like, fuck that, it's sci-fi.
But the danger is you get like, where's the vampires, where's the werewolves, where's the wizards, and you're like,
from people who have expectations, and that's I think what we were struggling with, when because it is a fantasy version or an alternate version. But because what did you end up on? I can't even recall.
No, that's
like categories. Like, did you pick like specific categories on Amazon?
Of course, yeah. I put like
that
noir,
that were like fantasy.
No, I think I put like sci-fi, noir, crime, and then it came out at like alternate sci-fi or alternate.
Okay.
So it started doing and all the keywords. I was very careful not, or dark fantasy was one of them, I think. But I was careful not to say, because otherwise you will. So I'm trying to set the expectations of people, and so they understand that I kept saying it's a noir story. There's a PI. It's crime families. There's cops. It's the underworld. It's New York, and people are like, okay, so they get it. Like on Sunday at this event, I was talking. This guy was like, "Oh, tell me about your books." I'm like, "Oh, this one's epic fantasy. This one's this one this. Here's my new one." Blah blah blah. And he goes, "Oh, that sounds like my kind of thing." I'm like, all right, then. So we picked up New York Minute. So, the other things weren't to his taste, but by pitching it, saying it's noir and a crime story, he was like, all right, I'm sold. I'm in.
Right, I'm in.
So,
yeah.
But I feel like that's the tricky thing with self-publishing is like, you have
that's
to
where we genre mash.
Oh my God, dude. But, it's like, but Amazon forces you to Amazon or Ingram Spark or whoever you end up printing your book with, you have to just somehow classify this thing. And I'm like, man, in trad they like have years of experience and probably like binders or documents of information about like how do we sell booksellers, how do we pitch booksellers on this. And here we are as like individual people trying to ask our friends, be like,
It goes back even further though. Like, so when you pitch your book to the MJ will know this, but you pitch your book to your agent, and then when they pitch it to the editor, it's not just like X and Y in a query letter. They take it to the editor, and the editor will then take it to the rest of the publisher, going, "It's X and Y for sales."
Yeah.
Like it's Shadows of the App Agent Tchaikovsky meets something by someone else, and they go, "Oh, okay," and then based on that, they calculate the advance, and based upon that, so it's like they've got years of data and years of this kind of stuff to perfect it. Whereas we're like, it's A, B, C, D, and a bit of E, and you're like, well, so how do you sell that? That's the problem. And
At the end of the day, it's like, good luck, and if it doesn't work, you can change it.
That is the nice thing about
categories later, right?
That is the nice thing about indie and self, is that if it's not working, if something is not getting traction, we can like fiddle with it after it's published and work on the back matter and change our categories and try to find different comps, and in a way that I'm not sure you can as much when you're published by a
they
house,
do it
because
in
when
bad,
it's out, it's out. Yeah.
We're not part of it.
Yeah.
It's
And
done.
like you can adjust your marketing yourself as as you're posting and stuff, and hope for the best, but that back matter is that's what you get.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is a nice thing about the side is we can experiment, and then like every time we do something, it is like it's tuition for the next book, where we know like, okay, well, if I say these words, then
tuition is a good way of putting it.
Yeah, that's how I have to put it, or I drive myself insane, because it's like it's not a failure if you've learned something, right? And so that's what I mean by tuition, where it's like that was tuition to your education on the right words to sell your books. And if certain words give absolutely wrong expectations, now you know to avoid them, or vice versa. If the right comp to the right other author gets you a lot of traction, then remember that one.
But it's the control though as well, in terms of like, if I know that I make, I don't know, £2 profit on a book, I know that if I want to cut my own margin per sale, I can do advertising pay-per-click up to a certain amount. And then you try it in one category or several categories, it doesn't work, then you can flex and try something else. And it's that kind of absolute control of the budget. One of the things when I was talking on an event on Sunday and people were saying about writing books, my kind of fallback thing was always, if you go down the traditional route or the self-publishing route, whatever you do, you have to have a business brain. You have to be business minded. And I said, if you're not, if the idea of like profit and loss and balancing and marketing and promotion, all that like drives you mad, and you think, I just want to write the books and I'm not as interested or care about much of that. I'm like, then traditional is probably better for you. You pay someone else to do it, they take care of it, and they take a share of the money, and that's how it works. But it's a case of, if you want absolute control, then maybe self-publishing is for you. It shouldn't be, I got rejected by an agent, I'm going to show I'm going to show you. Well, it's like, that's not what you should.
No, it's like going into anything with bitterness is not the right way to.
MJ and I were just talking about this the other day. Because I sent out my first query letter just like for shits and giggles, just to see what would happen. And then I got so many people from like who are just in the querying mire, who are like, like solidarity, and then the few people were just like, you're just getting warmed up, bud. And I'm like, can you calm down? They're
like, one of us. And
I was just like, no, stay away from me.
Wow.
Well, what helped me make up my mind before publishing, I was watching, I don't know, some online convention, and it was Dirk Ashton who was talking about on a panel about trad and indie and the differences, and he summed it up best when he said going with publishing houses is like being an employee, and going self-pub is like being an entrepreneur, and you just have to decide which skill set you think you're going to fit in best, and and go for it. And I think that's a really good way to sum it up, where it's like both have drawbacks, both have strengths, but you got to figure out which slot you fit in.
And I
and do your best
cool
in that slot.
Yeah.
Or the
having a job and freelancing on the side, baby.
Exactly.
Like I think it's really, Stephen is like, he's dipping his toes into what I feel is the future of publishing. That we're going to see more traditionally published authors going hybrid in the future. And we already see it. It's like you see the authors like Mark Lawrence, you see
Anthony Ryan, Brian Bolia have done it.
Where it's like, I feel if you have a good contract in trad where there is flexibility of like, you can write in the same world and publish it outside of this publishing house. So it's like Brian McClellan self-publishes his novellas in the same world
with Brad, same with Rockio. Rocchio's doing
that's
it.
a hard deal to get for the record.
If you
it's hard enough to get a deal where you could publish something in the same genre. Let alone the same world. I can't publish anything in the world of Tamora for another year, I don't think. Technically.
It's a weird thing. Like if the series is going to run, or even if it's going to be so big, that you want to do more stories within the same. Like Krystle Rocky has basically said he's going to be telling Sunny to stories until he dies, because he's a 7-book series and he's done. But there's lots of other places he can go, and every time he's got an interesting story that he thinks, I could fit it in there in some way, and do like a different kind of a story. Why not? Unless it's something totally different. He'll do other genres and other series, but like some people saying, "Oh, you're ever going to come back to the Battle Mage world and do more of those?" And I'm thinking maybe, but I'd have to have the right story. Like RJ Barker's like me. By the time we get to the end of a trilogy, we're so just like fucking bored. Like, I'm done. Like I've been working on it like 5 years, probably. So, but having something so big you can dip in and out of and play around with, and I'm going to do that in the future. But doing smaller projects around the edges, I think, is a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think hybrid is going to be what, just because the self-publishing, I think, is going through the beginnings of a golden age. Like the best time it's been in self-publishing since self-publishing started, in like the crazy like Hugh Howey,
the gold rush,
like Andy Weir, like the gold rush, where people were kind of getting in there in the Wild West days. I think now is the time that it's been most
like Ben Galley and Roger Hayes were like discovering what Kindle was alongside Amazon, like working with them. Like, how does this work? I don't know. Let's have a go and see what happens. So the
we had Ben on Dripping Bucket for early episodes, and he was talking about like back in 2008 or something when he was first publishing, and it's just like, I was learning all this stuff
over at the Kindle, and like
exactly. It was like, wow, that's amazing. And it's really cool Kindle. To be like walking on the path that they basically laid the bricks for us to be here. Yeah.
Got first question, JCM says.
Well, that's why we were waffling so much about whether to call it
New York Light.
New York Light. So no,
maybe.
Though, because it's not going to be in New York that you recognize.
I will say this as someone who's been to New York a bunch, and not just like I went to Manhattan and that was it. It's like, no, I've been to Manhattan and I've tattooed in like Brooklyn and
of course you did
different. Shut up, Krystle.
There's mushrooms all over New York.
Yes,
I am. Yeah. Absolutely,
spreading
I am.
my mushrooms all over New York.
I would like to like go on this vacation where we just meet each other in random cities, and you just put another tattoo on me. That's my Glasgow tattoo. That's my.
We can go to Central Park, and I'll do a tattoo for you in Central Park.
Done.
I'll stick and poke you in Central Park, which sounds like way dirtier than this.
Wrong. That's kind of wrong now. Answer the question.
It's a family show, Adrian.
So this is not family friendly. It's Steven's his YouTube channel.
I know. I'm pretty sure I dropped an F-bomb like 10 minutes ago.
Okay, so I said fuck earlier.
Yeah, so I've been to New York a handful of times, so I feel like I have a pretty good sense of the city. And despite the fact that Steven has this like alternate history sort of timeline for the city, where everything outside of New York is kind of like mysterious and sort of that feels like the most fantastical of the entire book. But I will say like the feeling of walking around the city, the smells, that fucking rank garbage smell that just like permeates your nostrils.
Just comes in random waves. Yeah,
man. But I feel the actual act of like walking around New York City, he captured that really well, despite the fact that it was like quite a condensed format.
I've been to New York. I've spent time there. I wanted to create the feeling of the seedier side, because there's the parts of the city, some of the parts the story goes to, don't exist because they're not there, and I've made them up. But the feeling of the city, that's what I wanted to get across most of all. So if it doesn't feel accurate, or you go, that's not really there, I'll just remind people it's not actually our New York. So
but the vibes,
it's fantasy, baby.
It's the vibe.
Fancy, baby.
Yeah. It's a different kind of
Joe.
Yeah, Joe.
Come on, man.
Come on, dude.
I didn't actually do any tattooing. I didn't think about tattoos, and in the city or anything like that. I thought about, the bars and the food, but I didn't mention any tattoo.
Yeah, but then again, like,
wow, Steven, way to let us down.
You'd have to think about the logistics of how tattoos would work in in this setting.
Yeah,
it's like you need electricity for the most part to do tattoos these days.
Unless it's the old Japanese style with the needles.
It would be
They would all be hand poke. Yeah.
Old school, baby.
Old school.
Yeah.
So, could be. You know,
yeah, man.
Well, maybe in the next one. Who knows?
Sequels.
Maybe
if you need a consultant, I'm here for you.
Tattoo consultant. Yeah.
A tattoo consultant. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I can be your skin sensitivity reader.
That sounds like a different kind of dirty sensitivity reader again for something else.
Hey man, I'm with Krystle and MJ. I'm just like.
Oh sure, blame it on us.
Blame it on us. I mean, it's fair.
Krystle, we spent a week together in Glasgow. Shit went haywire real fast. So.
Yep. I'm the only one who doesn't actually have a tattoo, I think, out of the four of us. So there you go.
Wow, you need one.
You're naked.
Yeah.
You're naked.
You're naked. Well, next time I'm in your area, man, I'll tattoo you.
Watch out. It's like
Find a part.
tattooing.
You'll get the stick and poke treatment.
Yeah. Surprise stick and poke. That's what everyone wants.
Anyhow, you did miss a good party at Glasgow, unfortunately, MJ. It was good. But
I know, that's why all of you need to come to Seattle next year.
Yeah, Seattle,
I can get across the country way easier than I can get across an ocean. So
true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, Krystle will be invited as guest of honor at CanCon, so then I can just go up to Canada. So
yeah, I'll
sure you go.
You know, and then it's easy for everyone.
Yeah.
Is CanCon in Ottawa, Krystle?
Yes, it is. Yeah. Right. Yeah, this year it's in November, so.
Wow, that's really late.
Yeah, that's really tempting the weather
that's
around here.
Cold season for up here in the Great White North.
Why don't you come to Canada when it's the most stereotypical?
Well, it's actually like worse. It's like, because like
Ontario's like is pretty temperamental though.
Yeah, like it could be nice still, like it could be really autumny vibes, or it could be like the most miserable drizzling rain. So, Stephen, if you come, you'd feel right at home, I guess.
Yeah.
You had lovely weather when you were here. Most of the time. You know,
Birmingham was beautiful and sunny.
Yeah, it was really nice when we were there. Yeah,
we had really 1 week of summer. You did really well.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Worldcon, for scheduling exactly when the weather was perfect.
Even in Scotland, I mean, that's pretty rare.
Yeah, I think it rained every day we were there. It's just that we were all inside the whole time, so nobody knew.
No one saw actual direct sunlight for 6 days.
It wasn't inconvenient rain though. It was fine.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. Like anytime I had to go outside, I was like, there's no rain anymore, so it's okay.
I feel like we walked in the rain once with Greta.
But that was from one building to another.
No, we had a pretty long hoof. I think we were going back to the apartment, and like it felt like a longer walk than it
another
usually.
Though.
Yes, that's true. But it was like it wasn't on the convention center grounds. It was up a few blocks, so it felt like a longer walk than it had felt like earlier that morning when it wasn't raining.
Yeah.
So, Adrian, are you working? Yeah. What are you working on now? Rather than say
when's the next?
Yeah, when's the next one coming out, Adrian?
Well, I want to know when Spore City is coming out.
I've got the cover for Spore City.
Oh, that's book 2.
No.
So this is the start of another series, but in the same world.
Yeah. Okay. And this was like the first thing that you wrote for the world. This is the one I
wrote before Mushroom Blues.
Yeah.
And then I was tired of this one, and I was like, I'm going to take a break and write something else. And then I ended up writing and publishing Mushroom Blues. So now I'm going back to the other one.
You needed a nice long breather, all right? Nothing wrong with that.
Like a year and a half, dude. It was necessary.
I was so convinced that Mushroom Blues was a novella because I think that was the intention originally. Yeah, that was the intention originally. Yeah.
But I didn't know how to outline. So then I was like, these 14 chapters are not 14 chapters. And then I expanded it into 40.
Also, 14 chapters, I feel like, could be pushing it for a novella anyway.
Yeah, that's like novel territory.
Sure. That was newbie me. That was newbie me, MJ.
That's okay.
So, so I got Spore City. Yeah, like I would say like 10 to 15 is pretty average for a novella. Unless the chapters are like significantly shorter than normal. But Spore City is the same world. It just takes place like 3 decades after the Hoffman Report. So Koji is one of the POV characters, and he's like
the old man.
He's an old man. He's getting up to
his,
like towards his 60s. He's real grumpy. And
I loved him so much. Like I think I read like one chapter of his or something, and I was like, "Oh, this one's mine. Like I'm done." And it's like,
him.
Yeah.
So there's 3 POV characters. There's Koji. Anyone who's read Mushroom Blues knows who Koji is. And then there's gangster tattoo artist, who's like the tattoo artist for a crime family. And then there's a corporate spy who's like pretending. I mean, she actually is a bioengineer. Like she has her PhD and everything like that. But then her father sends her to this other country to work for this corporation to basically be a corporate spy to steal tech and IP from them. And so it's like those 3 characters and how their storylines commingle. And then came up with the inciting incident the other day. I told MJ already, but for the sequel to Mushroom Blues. So hopefully next year will be like Spore City sometime in like the spring, and then this sequel to Mushroom Blues sometime in the fall.
That's not that far from now. I think that might be a little ambitious. The spring,
that's kind of, we'll see.
The spring. Dude.
I'm thinking more like
Who's
April, May.
Spring?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. That's more like
I'm in
which
Ecuador,
spring?
so I have spring all year round.
Say wait for a Michigan spring, then you got till June. You'll be great.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So we'll see. At this point, I'm not putting any firm dates on it because I want to just see how it goes.
This is it. Yeah.
And I've already got the cover art for Spore City, which I'm really excited about.
Cool.
So Felix just knocked it out of the park. And then who is it? Sean T. King is going to be doing the graphic design, like typography and stuff like that for those covers.
Nice.
So
just taking something off your plate.
No, it's more specifically that I had a very specific vision for how I want this to look, and I know Sean can do it.
Right.
So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna let Sean do it.
I can let this one go.
Yeah, it's like I want that whole trilogy to have a very specific look. And Sean, I know, will be able to pull it off. It's like I don't want to invest that much time in like creating my own fonts like he does.
Fair.
Yeah,
He's
I'm not really
good. So,
MJ, what about you? What are you doing? What are you working on?
Nothing. No, I'm just kidding.
I know the answer to that is not true because I've
sitting
read
around
something.
hanging out.
You read something? Oh, I'm jealous. What are you working on?
Me?
Yeah, now I'm waiting to actually hear the answer because Steven just said he read something of yours, and now I want to know.
Yeah, so it's with my agent right now. I have no idea what genre it is. I've been calling it horror because it's got creepy shit in it, but it's
or also, a thrillery.
Maybe thriller. Maybe it honestly might end up shelved in Genfic if it ever sells. I have no idea. I literally sent it to my agent and said, I don't know what genre this is.
Like you sort it out. Work out what it's like. You sort it out. That's where we
kind of Midnight Library, but add zombies and lots of death. So like, I don't know. What are you? But yeah, that's one thing I'm working on. I'm planning on joining you in your adventure into the hybrid lane next year, hopefully. Because I have a book that's on, whatever. I'm not supposed to talk about being on sub because of whatever, but I don't follow the rules. I have a book that's been on sub for a long time, and it's not selling in trad, but I believe in it. It's traditional fantasy, which is why it's not selling. Yeah. And that's the notes I'm getting from publishers, right? This is too traditional high fantasy, da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, well,
that does really good.
Readers still like that, though, even if publishers don't.
Correct.
Yeah.
So
100%.
I'm taking a leaf out of the Ryan Cahill playbook here, and I'm currently writing a prequel that I will give away for free. Nice. And then once I finish that bad boy, I will formally pull it from submission because it's been on sub for like 18 months right now. Like it's
no, it's way too long.
It's been on sub a long time,
Way too long.
And then I'm gonna spruce it up too because if it's been on sub 18 months, it means I haven't really looked at it in 18 months. And then hopefully by Michigan spring next year.
Michigan spring. I like how we're getting like so in the weeds.
Specific,
yeah, but that's the plan. So we'll see. Stay
and MJ,
tuned.
like honestly, I think you could do so well in indie. Just like Steven, it's like you had 10 books before this. And then you got like that whole built-in fan base. Obviously, there's certain people who won't cross over, like that guy you were saying, like, oh, I don't know about your other stuff, but I'm into this like noir thing. But, man, I think having the fan base built in from trad and then going indie, it's like you can just like start pulling people over.
Power move.
It's a different approach. This is it. Like, I'm not starting from scratch. We're not. Me and MJ are not like we just walked in the door and no one's ever heard of us before. We've been in the space, a long time. So
and you've got the connections to like the bloggers and the people who will help you out and come to the dark side of it. MJ, join us.
I like it. I like it.
She's already on the dark side, Joe.
I was going to say, I'm very welcome. I'm excited to be welcomed to the dark side.
Yes.
So what are the three? Good, Krystle. So what are the three projects you're working on then?
Oh,
what can you say that they are?
Well, so I mean, the main one is I'm trying to do book 3 for the Chain of Divinity series. It's hard. It's a really hard book to work on because it's emotionally really heavy, but also it's multi-point of view, and we're headed into epic territory here with the scope, and so it's like it's a lot of thinking, but also it's like, I don't know, it hits really hard right now. So I can only work on it in little bites before I'm like mentally and emotionally exhausted by it. But I love it. Like, I say that. I love that series and I love those stories. But I also have other stuff to work on in the meantime. One of them is it's the Deco Punk project where it's like 1920s jazz age theme, super crime.
River Gang.
Exactly.
Yep. Weird dragons.
Yes, exactly. With mushroom dragons. Yeah. So the magic system is fueled by psychotropic mushrooms that I invented just for this series. And also there's dragons, and they're dormant and they're really scary. So it's like a little bit horror, but also gangland crime syndicate feeling and prohibition. So speaking of genre blending.
Not a genre blend.
And then the other one, the one that I'm currently today working on, is a standalone for the Chain of Dominion world.
Okay.
And so it picks up a character that walks into book 2. When he walked into that book, I was like, oh, I like you. You've got a story, don't you? Sort of thing.
But it's rare that a character like walks into a story and it's like, you've got a story, but it's a story worth doing a standalone.
Exactly. Yeah.
And related standalones, like, as a reader, I'm a sucker for it, And
I just feel like
MJ's aggressively into that.
He deserves it. Ozra, my melancholy drama queen, deserves some aggressive positivity. So it's like, it takes place before he arrives in the series, but it's like it's kind of Western vibed, except it takes place in like a Canadian logging camp in the winter. So it's like part Western but snowy, and it's also part horror because there's a ghost following him around, and he's slowly losing his mind. And then also Western shenanigans of like defending the logging camp from the Lawa. I feel like I've neglected that story. Like, it started as a short story a couple of yees ago. And it was too big to be a short story. Like, I just could not cap it at 20K. Like, it was no 10K. It was 10K.
20K for a short story? Jesus.
Yeah, no. The cap was supposed to be 10K and it was headed toward 20K, and all the feedback I was getting was like, I need more of this, and this. And I'm like, well, that's not gonna work for 10K. So I set it aside. Yeah, exactly. It's a novel. So I set it aside. And it's just living in my head. Like, it's haunting me. It's haunting me like the ghost.
Like the ghost.
Exactly. So I think I just need to finish it. Like I need it to be finished. Because it's a good idea. Like I can see that it's a good idea. And also because I desperately need something finished for my own mental stability. Yeah. So I'm gonna tackle that one. Yeah. And I think it being a short standalone for this series would help. Because it seems to be like the biggest hurdle to people trying Brightwash is the size. So if I can get like a 90K Western and people like it, maybe they'll decide to trust me for the big epic chunk. So I'm figuring
gateway drug book.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm figuring
that was beautiful, MJ.
Yeah.
Slide them on in there. Come on in. The Tainted Dominion.
Are you also co-writing something, Krystle? You're supposed to be.
Yeah, we're supposed to be, but neither of us have looked at it in so long.
Okay, well, I'm looking forward to that.
you guys like slowed down on the co-writing and then started podcast, like co-hosting together.
Exactly. Yeah. So it was Fletcher pitched the idea that we would do a heroic fantasy, like in the style of David Gemmell, but it's still us, so it's going to be grimdark. And I have a character for it, and I've been thinking about him lately, so I'm thinking like eventually I'm just gonna pick it up and start working on it, and if I like it, then I'll tell Fletcher that I've been working on it. Then he can work on it.
I've got a window coming up. I could write you a Fletcher. I mean,
there we go.
That would be
I'll kick Fletcher out, and then I'll bring you in instead.
Cool.
But then Stephen can publish it as Michael R. Fletcher. And then Dirk Ashton can take credit.
Yeah.
And then it would be
perfect.
That sounds fair.
And then everyone will come there because that's how we market in this world.
I really Krystle and I are going to right. There you go.
Joe, I don't know if I can handle any more projects at the moment.
Don't tempt her, Joe.
Another one.
Yeah,
another one.
Literally.
I really want to co-write something though. Like Ronnie Verdi and I have been talking, spitballing ideas. How is it?
I've done it before. So this is the same kind of thing. So I'm saying a couple of years ago. It's now pre-COVID. I went to an event with a friend and we were chatting. He does sci-fi. I do fantasy, and I'd been thinking about this kind of idea that I had, and I was chatting to him about it. So that sounds really interesting. And then a couple of days later, got an email going, "I'm still thinking about that idea." And we both had contracted novels, and I was like, "I haven't got time to do a full novel around everything else." He's like, "Neither have I. Could we do half a novel each?"
Yeah. There you go.
So we co-wrote the novel, edited it, redrafted it, took it to our agents, and they both were like, "Oh, this is interesting, but it needs work." And we're like, "Yeah, okay." And then COVID, and like things have changed since then, and we haven't had a chance to get back to it. But yeah, it's done. It's written. It's a sci-fi novel. It's sci-fi.
That's cool.
With a core idea that I'm still quite happy with, and there's things that we now want to change about it, and I'm thinking about it. And there's things like, yeah, we could do this, make that with it, but the concept would stay. And it was the idea of we do it as a standalone, but then there's the novels you could split off set within the same universe. So like when he did Old Man's War, Scalzi did that, and everyone was like, that's a standalone. But then he did like other novels set within the same space. We were thinking of something like that. So that's one thing I want to get back to at some point when we have time. But yeah, co-writing it was fun. It was interesting because we're on the same page. We had the same kind of thought processor, but different way of approaching things, and I think that really helped.
I think that's what, like, if we can finish it, that'll be what drives it, because it's like Fletcher and I have like almost exactly opposite priorities as storytellers. Where
you're just covering all the bases.
Yeah, let's go with that. But he wants things really fast, like, everything is every chapter has like a 2,000 word limit, like, in his head, and if it's and so like all of his chapters are really snappy and they move along, and that's not me.
Have you met me? Have you met Krystle?
but I feel like learning how to do that would be good for me. So like if it gets done, it would be really great. It's just a matter of forcing myself to.
It's like the James S. A. Corey kind of like approach, where it's like every chapter, like 9 to 12 pages. Like, boom, 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 boom. That's kind of how I ended up writing Mushroom Blues. I was like, I don't think there's a single chapter in that book that's over like 3,000 words.
Yeah, and it
like
that lends itself really well to that genre.
Yeah,
I find.
I think the genre is it is
kind of demands
specific.
that you
like pacier.
You go with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to go the other direction
fantasy.
in some way.
Oh yeah, you're growing.
You're like,
I'll co-write that with you.
So I'm
we'll do a beast.
I'm 107k into this novel that I want to finish by Christmas, which I will. I'm 80% the way through. I was thinking, it's going to be huge. I think it'll only be like 130, 140, maybe. Mm-hmm. But I've been writing it, not worrying about the length. I think when it's done, that's what it will be.
That's a good size, actually.
And it's standalone adventure with this group of characters that I then want to do more with this group of characters as well. Different, scenarios, different stories. But this is the one that it'll go back to my agent and publish, and we'll see what they want to do with it. And if they don't, this is the one I'm going to then self-publish, basically, because I like the story, and like the characters, and like the world, and I want to do some more stuff with them. So,
and honestly, at this point, dude, you know how the process works. It's like you already finished edits and everything on book 3 in the Falcon and the Nightingale. That's done. Like done.
Yeah,
completely. So I've only got a proofread to do, and that's like
so now it's like you're completely like free to do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really good, like the position you're in, especially like with your relationship with your agent, to be like, okay, here's the thing I'm working on, or here's the idea I have. How viable is it for this path versus this path?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And you can just kind of go back and forth, and while a book is on submission, you can publish.
At least you've got other stuff you can.
I'm not turning my back on traditional at all. I'm gonna, of course. So this will get finished. It'll go to people for beta reading for the first time in a long time. I'm actually going to get alpha and beta feedback on this, and MJ's volunteered already. But one of the things I want to do is, like, if there's a character that people want more info on, I'm going to do like a prequel novella or a sequel novella about them.
Yeah.
In between other things, because I can have time to do that around other things. So I've got to finish this novel by Christmas. I'm going to start writing the sequel to New York Minute in January. So that'll be out in Michigan Spring 2025.
Can we use that in our marketing now?
I think so.
Michigan Spring 2025.
Yeah. But yeah, it's going to be out. So the second novella will be out next year sometime. I'm not, not some point then. Book 3, Nightingale and Falcon, is out next year. And once that second novella is done, I'm then going to write a something else. And it's like, we'll see what it is.
To be determined.
So like a something else, just period, not necessarily something else in the New York Minute world. Just
after I've done the second novella, I'll take a break and do something different before I come back and do the third. But I've already got 2 things lined up, and one of them there's been some interest from, so I'm going to write some chapters on spec and see what happens with it. And then depending what happens with that, I don't know. We'll either go forward with that, or I'll start writing other stuff, or a novella sequel to the fantasy novel. So but next year's already busy with like 3 projects in, basically. So I'm now looking at 2026 for new stuff beyond that.
Man,
but I'm always like this. Like, this is everyone's like, oh, you're so pretty, you just keep putting the books out and you keep doing it. And like, but traditional, as you know, MJ, works so far ahead. The fact that I was doing edits on book 3 way early this year because I was on time and it was done. And I ended at Christmas. I handed book first draft at Christmas last,
and that was like 6 months, 7 months before book 2 even came out.
So it's like you're ahead, you're on to the next thing. And
that's the weirdest thing about doing the like trad pub cycle, is promoting a book when you are already so far removed from that book, right? Like when I was promoting Thick as Thieves, I had already written 3 other books.
Yeah.
That, you know what I mean? I was like, wait.
It's like when a movie star.
I gotta remember who these people are and what the
movie stars could go on the block on the press junket tour for a film, and they're like, that was 3 films ago, and that was 2 years ago, and they're like, how was it fun working with so and so? And they're like, Yeah.
Like, I guess.
Was
I
in
don't
a scene
remember
with him?
hating
I
them,
don't know.
so sure.
It's like I just don't remember. Like I get that now because it's so many things.
Well, has
in
it
your
been
head.
with the New York Minute? Has that been a different? How has that been different, Stephen? Like since you're promoting that now, and it's like it is closer to the time you actually wrote it.
It is actually kind of the last thing that you finished, right? Like because pretty much.
I've been editing it with last year with earlier this. I can't even remember. It was last year, earlier this year. It must have been earlier this year. Yeah, it was earlier this year. I was editing it with Sarah Chorn and working with Rachel St. Clair on the cover and Dom doing the proof. So that's been all like fresh in my head. So it's kept it. Normally it would be like, oh, now it's coming out next January, that kind of a thing. Whereas like, no, it's coming out now. I'm like, oh God. But I gave myself a longer lead time than I needed. But I did that on purpose because it was the first time. I was thinking,
I don't think it's ever a bad thing to give yourself a longer lead time than you need because it's like Adrian and I have done the opposite.
Adrian, you want to speak on that topic?
Krystle, we're different. I think we're different types of writers though, where it's like I need to write to a deadline. And self-publishing is really, really difficult. Like nobody's setting a deadline except you.
Right.
I think that's what I'm dealing with now, where I also need to write to a deadline, because like I've done my best work when racing a deadline, but the last deadline was too tight, too stressful, and I don't want to do that again. So, but this other, formless drifting that I'm doing now is like worse. So I think I'm gonna have to just set a deadline for something and just do it. But also
set a deadline that is just like your deadline, like a deadline without earth-shaking.
Do you need external pressure?
But that's the thing.
That's what I do every time. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna finish this by this date, and I just like set myself that deadline. I'm sure that doesn't work for some people, but like.
I think I'm gonna.
For me, a deadline needs like the literal external pressure.
Yeah. Okay.
What if I say I'm gonna come to Ecuador and slap you in the face if you don't finish by that?
Oh, I'll volunteer.
I would.
Can I have
happily
that?
pay for your flight. Be like,
I'll do a tribute.
You want
come
to
around
visit
and
me?
That's your new deadline thing. You don't have to do a schedule. I will fly there and
we're
then
gonna form an order with you, Adrian.
I would like to request that service. I'm closer than Adrian is. It'll be easier for you to
drive to me.
I'll meet you in Toronto. You can slap the shit out of me. It'll be great.
There we go. Perfect.
You're just gonna meet up at the CN Tower. And people are gonna be like, all the tourists are gonna be like, they're gonna think it's like some performance.
FJ, how did you end up arrested in Canada?
In Canada,
weird.
It's just a face print on the glass floor.
Don't worry, officer. It was consensual. Leave her alone.
We have a signed contract. Don't worry. Oh my God, Joe. I think this counts as soliciting for sex work.
Different kind of work, but anyway, sure.
Yeah,
sure.
We're getting real kinky. This is like deadline kink right here.
Yeah, deadline. A deadline kink.
I'm a motivator. I'm a life coach. That's what I am, right? I can
deadline
say
from
coach.
other people.
Anyone can say they're a life coach.
Definitely do help though. Like I've literally had a deadline for the last. But
self-imposed deadlines are so difficult to.
I think I'm gonna try a self-imposed deadline for Coyote. Like I just have to figure out what a reasonable one is.
Is that your working title for the standalone?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm probably not gonna keep it, but that was the title for when it was a short story.
Yeah.
So I think I'm gonna try it. Like I'm just gonna figure out. I'm gonna set like a word count goal, and I'm gonna set a deadline, and I'm just gonna race it. But I'm willing to bet it'll take booking an editor or something that will.
Maybe that's it then. Maybe that's it. The fact you have to have it because they've got a schedule and they can't be booking in for another few months after that. You've got to get it done.
Yeah, I think that's what it's gonna take. But I just picked it up today. Like I just resurrected it from my stack of. I wish I had time to work on this files under my desk. But I'll I'll take a look at it and figure out like how many words I think it's gonna be, and just race myself. Yeah. And then I'll meet MJ somewhere, and she can buy me a coffee or beat me up.
I love it. It's like an either
Can
or.
you get coffee either way?
50-50.
I will probably need a coffee either way. So yeah.
Joe's comment, like his last comment, stresses me the fuck out.
Oh God, like, Joe.
Yeah.
That's too much, man.
No,
I hate it.
That's way too much.
I mean, that's one way, right?
I guess so.
I need to come up with a title for this.
We need to invite him in on the stream, because now I've got questions. Like Joe, you must have a pretty good idea of your word count. Like, and you must be pretty consistent at hitting it. Yeah. If you're able to do that. Yeah. By not writing any thoughts or anything.
Or like to know like my outline, like if you outline how that translates to a first draft.
Yeah.
Like I would imagine he outlines before he,
because an outline is just like a sparse first draft. I find like it's not as much of a either or. It's more of a sliding scale depending on the person.
Yeah,
but I write to a very specific, and I have an outline. Yeah, okay.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. So I need to come up with a title for this series now. Now that I'm going to start doing the second novella and then third.
Well, it's.
No, but then you gotta add that all to Goodreads and Amazon and all that.
Are they gonna all be following the same character?
Yeah,
that's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
So it's not.
I would just name it. I would just use his last name and be like
Blackstone,
like the Hoffman,
the Blackstone series. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Hoffman Report, the
Blackstone Files, or something like that. Yeah.
Someone said it was a bit like Dresden meets the Stephen King
Dark Tower
crime novels. What's the ones that are just straight crime that he's done?
Pop quiz. We're all failing.
Someone will think. I'll think about it anyway.
I'm not the biggest Stephen King reader.
I was gonna say I think I've read like 3 Stephen King books ever. Don't come for me, internet. But
I'll come for you. I've read.
Okay. Well, he's gonna come. You're on the other side of the ocean. I think.
Billy Summer, but yes, I'll come around. But anyway, I need to come up with the title for the series. That's the next thing that I need to do when I'm working on the second novella.
Do you know what the title for the second novella is?
No. I've got a couple of books I can't show on camera for research, but that will help me kind of with inspiration and the flavor of the second novella. I already know like the main story and the flavor, but I need a bit more juice, and that will help me get the bits.
When do you come up with titles? Usually, like, is it a last stage thing for you?
Yeah.
If
I'm halfway through and something lightning bolt, and you go, and then every single title I've had for all of my books have changed though, apart from my current trilogy. So really? I don't get too precious. Every single one's changed.
I've been so lucky.
I guess
I've gotten to keep both of my titles so far.
Mm-hmm.
But like I know that.
But also that must be a lot of pressure, because I feel like if I could just call it Coyote and hand it to somebody else and they come up with a good marketing title, I would I would be so okay with that.
I thought I had some great titles, and then they're like,
I usually have my titles like pretty early on.
Well, I was gonna say you have all your titles for like your and that's wild to me, because for me it's like between the third and the 8th draft, it's kind of like what you were saying, Stephen. It's like I'll randomly be working and I'll be like, and I'll be starting to stress, like this book is still untitled 7.
It's like having a baby who's like a year old and they don't have a name yet.
Yeah. Well, that's right.
You're gonna be like so annoyed, but it's like I have titles for every book in the entire Fungoverse. So
God damn it.
Yeah, but see, it's just one of
such an overachiever.
It's so different, you know. Like I feel like I need to get what everything about it is.
But that's the thing. It's like I already know like what I want these books to be like.
Like
in the essential like elements core kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. I have titles for more books in the series for the Dominion, but it was because like I was coming up on publishing and the title I had was bad because there wasn't a war in that book yet. And so I had to like come up with titles, and then it was so stressful, but also at the same time, for some reason, I decided I needed to figure out like a title scheme so that the series would be consistent. And so like I have
so
like a list
on L's and B's.
Well, I settled on legacy of, and then the center point of the story gets the of. So it's like legacy of the bright wash is because it's from the body on the river, and then brick and bone. It's Brickheart and Cattlebone Bay are the ones that are most affected by everything, and then so on and so forth. But I only have 2 more, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be more books than that for the rest of the series. So sometime in the near future, I'm going to be scrambling so bad for some more titles that fits the stupid theme that I've decided.
I think that's good. Holding title version 3. Yeah. With number of drafts.
That's
You're right, David. That's usually what it is. It's like, this is what it is up until the last second.
Yeah. It's vibes. I feel that.
Yeah. But yeah, every title is mind change. And the only reason I got the current ones, that they're stuck with the Judas Blossom Blood Doom Tide and the third one that's coming soon, is they're so obscure and they're from poetry that it's not the king of, the sword of, the blade of, the crown of. Like, it's not, everyone's like, oh, what's that? And it's one of the
they've got good SEO.
Yeah, basically. It's either the poem or it's my book, and that's kind of it.
And not just a poem, but like an ancient poem.
Yeah. Well, the blood oh god,
that one's nice.
Thank you. Is a really good one. Like that's a really solid.
That's the second and it title has as well, actually.
Yeah, well, I find it like, I don't know, maybe it's because I am familiar with the poem that it's like, ooh, that makes me like excited but also scared of that book because I know what the poem has to say. So it's like, it better match or I'm gonna be in
originally I wanted to call it Slouching Towards Bethlehem, which comes from the same poem.
Yeah.
But they were like too many religious connotations. So we changed it. And it's still the same poem, and it's still got the same feel for Blood Dim Tide because it fits. And then like, oh. And then the third one is another poem, a line from another poem that works. Because someone read the first book and they're like, I was looking for the Judas Blossom to turn up in the book. And I'm like, don't take it that literally. It's like, none of my books' titles are that literal. Like someone said, there was no Blood Mage in book 2. I'm like, yeah, I know. That isn't what it means. There's no Chaos Mage in book 3 either. Yeah, I know that. You don't take it literally. As the fact that this one is called Battle Mage and there is no Battle Mage is kind of coincidental, but it's about a war. So think about it a little bit.
Yeah.
Just a couple of seconds.
But it's like these people that are so used to like, I want to see the full book title in the book.
Yeah.
It's like films, don't say it. Don't say The Dark Knight. Just don't say it. And he did. And I was like, oh, God damn it. Right the credits.
I get excited when I find it in a book, though, and I see it. I'm like...
I had mine. I just like, because I knew, because that, like, I wrote this song for Mushroom Blues, and it has Mushroom Blues in the title. And I wrote that before I even, like, finished my first draft. So I was like, that one is acceptable.
I don't want people saying it. No one says, oh, this is just a New York minute in the book. It's like, no, don't say it. Just crowbarring it in. It's like,
New York minute.
My God. I think it's like really, it's very circumstantial, like when it works and when it doesn't. You know? Like no one's gonna be pissed that like they hear the word Titanic in the movie Titanic.
Oh
like,
yeah.
500
No, they're not
times.
allowed to say the name of the
fine.
book.
Yeah.
So wait, if your titles have changed, do you remember what your working title was for like The Coward and stuff?
Yeah.
Now I'm curious. Can you tell?
So originally the first book was called The Coward's Heart. It was originally a trilogy as well.
Good title.
It's originally a trilogy.
So
the first book
is what I'm hearing.
So it's The Coward's Heart, The Coward's Throne, and The Coward's Legacy.
Ooh.
And the original idea
those
was
are
because
good titles.
Thank you. They're like some kind of consistency, mage this, mage that, and a coward this, coward that. Because I wanted to do about the 3 ages of a man at different periods of his life. Because you have in folklore mythology, it's maiden, mother, and crone. And there isn't the 3 equivalents for a man, but I wanted to explore 3 different ages of a man's life through the lens of being a hero and the rest. In the end, the first one merges things because he's a boy and a man.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
We kind of get the reflection of the past when he was 17. And then we see
so in the original concept, The Coward's Heart would have been that first journey.
It would have been him as 17.
Interesting. Okay.
And the second one was him. And then it was like, and then in the revision process, it's like, and then the second one was going to be something else. And then when talking to my agent, she's like, well, what is the third one? I was like, I don't know. So you're
like, that's in the future.
I don't know. So then we go,
that's future Steven's problem.
Questions. I don't know. So
he knows there's a pop quiz.
I did last time. I worked it out by the third book last time. I did last 2 times. So we worked it out, and in discussion we worked out it's 2. Yeah. And the second book came very different. My pitch for the second book was The Wizard of Oz in the Upside Down, and that works for the warrior, and that's basically what the story is.
I was just gonna say, yeah, that's the vibe, though. Yeah, I mean, it is.
There's a coward. There's a guy that's got no heart. There's a woman who doesn't really use her brain. There's a Dorothy figure. They're in a world that's messed up, and there's loads of clues in the book about huge things that like 6 people have emailed me about and gone, "Is this?" And I'm like,
Like,
and no one else has got
really
it.
Gratifying.
No one else has caught some of the huge clues in the books about some other things, and they've just gone. Those people who get that,
the
you're
fact
my
you have
people.
6 people,
You're
like
my
6 people.
Yeah.
We talk about this. It's like reading comprehension. What people actually see and what they read. Mm-hmm.
Then Steven's going to turn the tables and give everyone else a pop quiz.
That's
right.
Yeah, there we go.
Pop quiz.
Our turn now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not ready. I haven't said it.
Oh man, yeah.
I like that. I like that you played around with the warrior kind of like concept though, because I never thought about it like the mother. Yeah, like the maiden mother crone kind of thing. But for men, it's basically just like the warrior is pretty much it. But it's like, hey, that warrior was also like a, I don't know what the
it goes back to
a little
Dross.
shit, a warrior,
Yeah,
and an old fart.
fucking.
It goes back to Dross really in Legend and David Gemmell, where it's the first book, but it starts with him as an old man who's basically on the verge of death, and he goes back to be a warrior, and he is a hero, and he is, it has, the Coward has so many echoes. 1, because it's like a Gemmell quest book. 2, it's my style is very similar to him, and 3, echoes all the things of Dross's life. Like he wrote, it's not a spoiler because it was written in 1987. So those who haven't read Legend, spoilers.
Hurry up, your chance.
It starts. You had your chance. It starts with Dross as an old man on his last battle, and he doesn't make it. And everyone loved the characters. Then David Gemmell was like, "Okay, well, I'll go back and write earlier stories about his life." So we got them in reverse in some way. So I was trying to do it the other way.
But we don't. Oh, I guess. But we never see him in that first story. We don't. If I recall correctly, we don't see the story of Skeleton Pass. The farthest back he goes is when he goes to visit or goes to rescue his wife.
Yeah.
And by then he's already become a legend.
Captain the Axe. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was an interesting choice on his part to never show us. And I think like from a storytelling perspective, it was really brilliant to have the courage not to do that. And not show us that one defining moment, because what exists in the collective imagination of having read all the books is probably outpaces whatever an actual book could have done. So I think that was a really there's a lot to learn there for
everybody. No, but not just that. It's that thing of how much there are some stories going back and worth revisiting in the mythologies of characters, and there are others that you diminish the character's power by explaining everything. Darth Vader being the massive example that you've shown us so much of everything about him. He's no longer this terrifying guy in a mask. He's a little boy crying about his mummy and crying about his girlfriend, and I'm like, oh, boo fucking who? When he was this unstoppable juggernaut of a menace that scared the shit out of people, literally choking them just cause, that was way more powerful than now you've explained everything. I'm like, I don't want that. I don't want that.
The art.
I feel like there's
the art of a mission.
There's certain limits that have to be put on that kind of thing.
I mean,
it depends on what you want too, because it's like if you wanted to spoil it and show that anybody could be here, then the purpose was served.
I have one favorite moment from the new Star Wars films. The rest of them can basically just go in the bin as far as I care. The best moment for me in the whole of those new 3 films is when Luke Skywalker stands in front of that door and they blast him with like everything. All these things are shooting at him. He's just stood there and he goes, And it's like, oh my God, how? And I like, I don't actually really want to know, because that's how good he is, and that's how powerful he is, and that's how amazing he is, and that's how hardcore he is. And you're just like, but explaining everything. Hi, Emma. Thank you for joining us. And she's booped the like button. Thank you.
Oh,
yeah, but going back, I think sometimes. So I was trying to do it the other way around, just show him as the boy and then progress. And play with time. I think one of the things one of my dreams, I don't think will ever happen, is to be in a TV writer's room, to work with the writers in the moment and create a bunch of things, because you can do that. You can have a 3-minute flashback scene and then come back to the main story that adds so much to the present, and you can't do that in a novel. And that frustrates me so much. You can do it with epigraphics.
I've had so many times where I'm like drafting something and I'm like, I wish I could just do jump cuts here. You know what I mean? Like,
it's so like, how do I just, can I go? No, you can't. You're like,
nope, I gotta write 7 paragraphs instead. Fuck.
Introduce the information somehow in another way in the present without someone going, oh, remember the time when you did this and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, oh, God. Oh, thanks, David. Yeah, someone overcome their demons.
Yeah.
I
think that it's kind of the opposite.
Well, and I think we kind of got part of that, which, I mean, forgive me, I can never remember real life people's names. So as soon as I finish a book, all the book character names leave my brain forever, never to be recovered. But the young kid that's with
Garen,
Garen, I think we get a little bit of that, right? You get like a taste of it.
He's the mirror
with
for
him
Cal.
seeing himself in that younger form without, to David's point, having to be like,
this is how it ended up being 2 books, by just that merging of the past and the present together to create him and have the mirror and all these questions that still remain and stuff. So, but time frustrates me a lot when writing novels. Being able to do not just write them, but also being a player to play with time that they can do in TV and films. I mean, that's just so fantastic. Oh
yeah, it looks like a pretty cool experience as a writer. I know I've lost my favorite novelist to TV, but he spitting out the coolest TV, so I guess I have to be Dennis Lehane. So he
interesting.
He's been in TV for a while, and so he was a writer on The Wire, which is famous. And then he tried to go back to writing novels, and he hated it because he had to do it alone. And so he's been writing fewer and fewer novels as the years go on, but he's producing some pretty cool television. So
wow.
I'm sad, but also, I get it.
I mean, I can't relate though, because like when you say you want to be in a writer's room, I would like to like sit and like watch a writer's room. But the idea of trying to be involved in that, like I would get steamrolled in 4 seconds. And, you know what I mean?
It would depend on
I like
who else is in the room with you.
When I'm doing stuff,
would change.
I think I would struggle to even co-write a novel with somebody, depending, I guess, on how it went. But like,
I've done one project sort of like this, because this is years and years ago. So I wanted to do some kind of a writer's room approach thing. So I did it with comics and a group of friends.
Oh, cool.
So I pitched them the core concept and said, this is this kind of, like, if I'm the showrunner, this is the core frame of the thing. And these are the rules, these are the things, go away and pitch, come up with some ideas. And then the 4 of us came back on the thing, and each of us had an idea, and we pitched like several to each other. And then we all picked the best one of our ideas. And we went away and wrote those ideas and came back as 1-issue stories for a comic, all set within this universe. And that was like the best. That was as close as I've got. And that was fantastic, because some of the ideas that came up, I would never, it's like that thing, you give someone the pitch and they go away and come back with something. I was just like, I would never in a million years.
That sounds like it was very well organized, though.
It's me. I'm my brain's super organized. I am so organized on everything. Like, you know,
like co-authoring. That's the kind of thing where it's like you have to write with the right person.
Yeah.
Yes.
It has to be the right
writer's
person,
room. Like, I feel
one person.
In the writer's room, you don't necessarily get to pick who you're writing.
But the thing there is like there's also a like a legit hierarchy within.
Yes, the showrunner.
Like, how much your opinion or ideas are valued in comparison to someone else, and that regardless of how
not
awesome
everyone is the Dennis Lehane in the room.
No.
This is it. But yeah, that kind of an idea would be fantastic. I think just doing that, but in a novel,
I feel like I have adjacent dreams of like running an anthology where I pitch kind of like a one line to everybody and just letting people write the story that comes to them with the core concept, and then just.
So I'm sort of doing that later this month.
Oh, lucky.
So I'm doing a project with the University of Birmingham and
cool.
like Arts Council and thing. And the line is True Voyage's Return, because we're celebrating the 50th anniversary of Ursula Le Guin's novel with that story.
Oh, cool. Okay.
It's running throughout the whole of October, basically, and 2 creative people every week go in and write something at this location and do like working lunches and sessions and school and helping people and talks and panels. And so I'm going to go for like
that's really cool
for 6 days middle of this month and just sit and write something based on that one line that'll go into an anthology. So there's artists, there's writers, there's creative people. So I'm going to do that for like, and I've got a vague idea but nothing like nailed down, so I'm just kind of going to go in and be like, this is let's try this.
High pressure. That sounds like it. That sounds like a lot of fun though. That's a little bit jealous, but also excited.
Also, I love how Krystle's like, can I put something else on my plate?
Right? You don't
I'm not busy enough.
Well, that's why it's a dream rather than a project on the go. It's like,
but how quickly our dreams turn into reality.
Yeah, I feel like it'll probably happen somewhere in the future.
Yeah.
Like just saying.
Gathering a bunch of writers together and just doing something.
Yeah.
So you need.
I will tell you how difficult it is to wrangle writers to do.
I do know how difficult it is to wrangle writers. I'm fully aware. So like I'm aware if I decide to pull the trigger, it will be a couple of years of my life that I won't be able to get back. But writers are so slow that I'll be able to write stuff around it. Maybe, I hope.
Right, you can write stuff while you're waiting on them.
Waiting for them to remember there's a deadline. Yeah, and like I say that fully knowing that I'm whiffing deadlines at the moment, so no judgment, just full acceptance of who we are.
Just acknowledgement.
Yeah.
We're hot messes in general.
We have a lot.
At least we're hot.
That's true. There we go, MJ. Yeah.
Keeping it real. Keeping it real. God.
Oh, these sexy writers.
Wow. Okay. All right. I think we're kind of running out of steam, or we need more alcohol. It's one or the other. It's like 50-50, more booze. Or
it's like coming up on 10:30 for Steven, so he's
right.
Yeah, it must be
ready for it.
I'm ready to go read.
Right?
What are we reading at the moment? Let's finish on what we're reading. I'll go first. I'm currently reading
I do.
The Book of Elsewhere by Adrian M. And I look in the front cover. What did I find? Signed by Keanu and China.
Wow. How is it so far?
It's challenging, but probably not for the reasons that you would think. So do you know anything about the book at all?
I don't.
Do, and I'm a fan of China Miéville's work, so I can understand how it would
I've
be
just
challenging.
been curious in general about it, but
so Keanu Reeves came up with a concept for a character, and he's done some comics called Berserker, and this book is set within the same universe, and it's not an origin story, but it's explaining a bit more about who the character is. He came up with like the core structure. He asked if China. He was on Stephen Colbert talking about this, saying, they said, well, who would you like to write it? And he was like, could we get China Miéville? He's my favorite author. And they were like, let's see what we can do. And China was like, yes. So they had some Zoom calls. China did the first draft. They wrote back and forth, and then he was there like saying, he wrote the book, blah, blah. And then Stephen Colbert was, he's here in the front row of the audience. It pans around and China sat there with his girlfriend in the front row.
That's so cool.
Dude, that's so cool.
So it's expanding the story of this character called B. But China's such a good writer that when he changes chapters and it goes to a different character or a different perspective, it's done in a different style. So it feels like you're collecting notes and anthologies and scripts and bits and pieces of other stories of characters that are all about this character of B, but then there's his story running through it as well. So you're gathering, because he's been around for like 80,000 years, his character, and just keeps coming back and never really dies. And it's like, why is the core concept, but then he's lived through the world, and he's got like a secret history of the world that isn't what we think it is. There's things that we've got wrong, but he's lived it. So it's a challenge. Like, you settle into a character in a chapter, and it's where it's written. Then you get the next chapter, and you're like, now it's completely
like
different.
A new writer.
And I'm starting like a new book. So I'm not struggling with it, but it's slow going because I'm having to adjust every chapter. Like, you don't fall into a rhythm. But that's because of how China's done it on its different styles on purpose.
It's designed to be that way.
Yeah, which takes a lot of skill, like breaking your own.
That's why he picked China to do it.
Right?
If you've read any of his other works,
lots.
He is China Miéville is probably, I would say, one of the most like rule breaking authors I've ever read.
He's made the English language his bitch, is how I described it in an interview, and he was like, interesting. So
you've sold me on his work. I just have to get it to the.
I met him twice. I've interviewed him once on a podcast years and years ago.
Nice.
Such a lovely guy. Very, very clever. Very warm. Very just a lovely guy. So yeah, I'm so glad he's now coming back and doing stuff. Like, read The City in the City. If you've not read any of his books, read that. It's super short. It's really clever. They did like a BBC mini series of it a few years ago. But I've read a bunch of his other stuff, and it's just
if you want to have your mind just completely fucked, especially in the sense of like how linguistics work, then go read like Embassy Town, or like if you want.
That's like, a challenge to read, though.
That's a really challenging book. But then like Perdita Street Station and like all of those.
Railsea, just a fun book with giant trains.
The Scar is fantastic. Those are like super weird books with like.
They're all weird concept, clever things.
Well, that's the thing. Perfect for Weird Bitch Winter, Adrian.
Oh yeah, we've got MJ and I on the podcast. We have Fuck It Fall.
Goth Girl Summer. That's what we just did.
Goth Girl Summer, then Fuck It Fall, then Weird Bitch Winter.
Weird Bitch Winter. Our themes.
What's everyone else reading?
I'm reading The Hunters by David Ragg.
Yes.
I've talked Andy Peloquin and do a buddy read of it.
Excellent.
Yeah, and it was from, I think it was on your stream that he was talking about it because it was like a Western fantasy-ish. And I'm a couple of chapters in, and I'm really liking it. Although I wouldn't have called it a Western. It's more like,
it's frontier story, really.
It's like a Silk Road.
There's Middle Eastern flavors in
there. Yeah. Western if on the Silk Road, I guess is how I would pitch it.
I'm doing an event with Dave next Tuesday in London.
Oh, cool.
For his book too, and Blood Dim Tide.
Yeah, it just the second one just dropped, didn't it?
Company of the Wolf just come out.
Yeah. I'm liking it. So, and then we're gonna do a live stream, me and Andy, when we're done. Nice. Just talking about how much we liked it. So
you have to go back and read the series before then, you see.
Stephen, don't. You've already made me buy so many books.
Only 2 books.
Shut up.
And it'll get all the clues that you're reading in the Hunters. You'll be like,
oh, are they connected?
Yeah.
There's little seeds and things planted, and then you're like, I asked Dave or someone, like, is this so and so? And he's like, maybe, who knows?
And that's how you know.
Damn you.
And it's like I can just picture Dave doing that, like like with that snarky ass face.
Adrian, what are you reading?
I'm reading The Oleander Sword by Tasha Suri. Which I really love, the Jasmine Throne, and MJ and I are going to chat with Tasha next week, I think.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, week from Thursday.
Yep. So I got a physical copy and enjoying that so far. Her prose is just freaking beautiful, and her pacing, like everything that she does, it's like it's not fast pacing, but it's like the pacing that she sets is very
satisfying.
Well done. Very satisfying.
Yeah, it's like appropriate pacing for what.
Yeah.
Just to kind of like sink you into it a little bit more. And then I'm reading. I'm continuing. I'm on volume 3 of 4 of a comic, like manga series from Japan called Showa. by Shigeru Mizuki, which is basically just like his autobiography / like a historical account of Japan between, I think it's 1929 until like 1989 or something like that. But it's like a big part of the Japanese 20th century during a period called the Showa. And so it's like it covers like World War II and him being a soldier in World War II. And the art style is like really crazy because he's very famous in Japan for having created these like really goofy yokai cartoon characters and like manga characters. And so he has these like ongoing series about, like I think it's called Kintaro, which is like a little like zombie yokai boy. He's like an undead boy, and all these different creatures that he encounters in his adventures. But his art style is like, he'll have these really cartoonish representations of people or of monsters or whatever, but then these like hyper detailed panels or backdrops and stuff like that, where it's like very like detailed dot work and things like that. So it's like, especially when he's covering World War II, it'll be like,
that must be
the Japanese like generals and commanders and stuff looking really goofy, but then it'll be like hyper detailed of like a battleship that takes up like half a page, and it's like, holy shit. It's unbelievable. So I'm on volume 3 or 4 and really enjoying that as well.
MJ?
Yeah. So on audio, I am on book 6 now, Adrian.
Oh, since we talked like 2 days ago.
Book 6 of what?
That must be a good
color Carl.
That was.
Oh my god, it's so fun. It's so fun. I've just been like devouring these on audiobooks. And then in my physical book read, I've got
you've got that arc.
Yes.
King. Yeah. So I have 2 weeks from today for my deadline to send the quote in. But I'm crushing it. Like I just
you're like a third of the way.
It's really good. The characters are really fun. And I keep DMing Evan to yell at him for killing things.
That's how you know it's a good time.
The thing is, it's like we know each other, but we don't know each other like that well. And like the third time,
by the time you're through this book,
like live texting him, I was like, just so you know, I'm so sorry. This is just like how I operate. Like,
I'm sure he's super happy about it.
My reaction to your project. Sorry. And he's like, no, please do. But yeah, it's really good. So this is out. I forget when it's out. Oh, it's out in May.
Soon.
May.
Yeah. So if I can
Angie Kills the King. Yeah.
Check it out. Yeah.
Wow.
Bam.
Wow. Bam. Just slap that arc down.
Well, the other thing I'm rereading is this beast. Is the military
omnibus. Wait. Show us the side. I want to see how chunky she is.
This is the complete collection of omnibus. Unfortunately, John Caste passed away very recently. He's quite young. He was quite a young guy. One of the best artists in comics ever, basically, and his artwork is fantastic. And this was a seminal series that he did with Warren Ellis. So I've read it, but I'm rereading it, and I got the absolute omnibus giant beast of collection that kills
so thick,
anybody with this thing.
But such a
double your home security system right there. Yeah, I heard that.
It's like doing like wrist workouts, man.
Right?
Yeah.
Trying to read it, you're like, sit down, put it on the desk, put it on the table and read it. Open it.
No, that's like one of those books you can only read at the kitchen table at breakfast.
Yeah, you rest.
Yeah.
Knock yourself out trying to read it in bed. You're dozing off.
I mean, there you go. It's just a foolproof way to fall asleep fast.
Sure, give yourself
No, but that's the worst, because then it's like, have you ever had it where you're reading a book and you're like so tired and then it's just like shock yourself and like my headphones fell off. But imagine that being a book in your face.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've done it.
I've done that.
More than once. More than twice. Don't want to talk about how many times.
It's bad news.
MJ reminded me that I am also listening to an audiobook. So let me see if my camera will pick this up. It's called no way. It's called The Bullet Swallower by Elizabeth Gonzalez James. And it's like this I think it's pitched as magical realism. And it's like it does one of the dual storylines where one storyline is in 1890 in Mexico, and then the other one is in 1960 or something. And it's like the ancestor of the guy in 1960 is like this hard ass desperado character, but he's haunted by something, question mark, and it's just like it's so good, and like I haven't enjoyed an audiobook this much in a while. And it's just like I gotta like go to the gym and shit and finish my book. You know what I mean? Like it's that good. Like
get a good audio for Krystle is I've been like finding excuses to like
exactly.
I really need to take the long way to the mail. To get that, you know.
Exactly.
That's gonna take at least 15 minutes. I could listen to a little bit of my
and then if you're listening at like 1.5 speed, then you get like almost 20 minutes instead. I get it.
Speed, I get a half hour listening. See, that's how I'm reading 6 Dungeon Crawler like a month and a half. I read all 9 of The Expanse in like 2 months earlier this year. So
double speed.
Get that speed up.
That's the 2x speed thing. Sounds normal speed to me now though. If I try to listen to audiobook on regular speed,
I can't. It's so slow.
Dumb.
It's
like it's like literally I'll turn it down in speed. I'll turn it to 1.5 or 1.2 when I'm in the shower. Because for some reason, like when I'm in the shower, like I can't comprehend.
It's like Black Mirror. She could go up to people's conversations and be like, "Come on, go to double speed."
I literally
slowly.
When I have it and like the volume's loud, and I'm like, my neighbors could probably hear this through the wall, and they probably think I'm so fucking stupid because I'm listening to it so slow. Like,
but I'm going through the Mushroom Blues audiobook right now, and just like reviewing all the chapters with my producer, and it's like. Yeah,
they do speak slower.
I think it's purposeful.
I'm sure, right?
It is.
But
yeah,
it's like 1.5 is like basically my go-to.
That's
in terms of like being able to comprehend anything that like any errors that come up, but also like I can't just go through at 1x speed. Like,
1x speed kills me. I did a proof. I proofed. What was it? Oh yeah, it was the Alchemy of Sorrow audiobook. And because they were sending me the raw files, I couldn't speed them up, and I was like,
Actually, no. Like, I'm listening to the raw files, and if you listen to it in QuickTime Player, do you have QuickTime?
Oh, okay. I didn't have you.
If you go to QuickTime and you go to View, then you can change the playback speed.
I did not have you to save me from one time.
Listening to a whole
slow in
audio
real
book.
time.
Oh my God.
No.
Yeah.
Right. I'm gonna end this now. So
anyway,
everyone go get New York Minute. Do it.
Do it. Steven's book.
Go buy it. It's available paperback, ebook, and Kindle Unlimited.
It's really good.
And it's so good. Yeah.
You can read it. And you can read it in like a day or
one
two.
session. It's done. Yeah. And I'll start work on the second one in January, and it'll be out.
Yeah.
Maybe in the Michigan
as
spring.
Soon as you
maybe
finish
later.
book 1,
maybe later.
Start Steven and ask him where his book 2.
And sure, whilst you're waiting, there's 10 other books you can read in the meantime. So there's plenty to do.
There's lots of Steven to go around. Wait.
On that bombshell, we're going to say.
Steven's like, I did not agree to this.
Thanks, no. Thank you for joining us. Good night.
Thank you all for watching.